Dr. Amanda Russell squinted at her monitor, the soft blue glow illuminating her office in the Nevada Desert Research Complex. The quantum fluctuation patterns didn't make sense. For the third night in a row, her instruments had detected anomalies that defied explanation. Ripples in space-time that shouldn't exist according to any known physics model. Dr. Russell. Jake Martinez, her graduate assistant, burst through the door, tablet in hand. The observatory just sent over their latest readings. You're going to want to see this. She took the tablet, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the data. The night sky was getting brighter, but not from any known source of light pollution. It was as if something massive was reflecting sunlight from high orbit, yet somehow remaining invisible to conventional detection methods. Run it through the quantum analyzer, she instructed, reaching for her already cold coffee. And Jake, let's keep this between us for now. High above Earth's atmosphere, High Administrator Zextal observed the humans with mounting concern. Their observation fleet's cloaking systems were failing, and no amount of recalibration seemed to help. The quantum-sensitive instruments the humans had recently developed were far more sophisticated than any species at their technological level should possess. Administrator, his second-in-command, Varketh, approached with evident unease. The humans have begun detecting our energy signatures. Their progression rate continues to exceed all historical precedents. Zextal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep worry in his species. How long until total cloak failure? At current degradation rates, 72 Earth hours. In her office, Amanda pulled up the historical data from the past year. The anomalies had started small, barely noticeable changes in background radiation that most researchers had attributed to solar activity. But she had seen something different, patterns that suggested intelligence. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dr. James Chen at the Mauna Kea Observatory. Strange readings again tonight. Multiple objects, mass at scale. Military says it's not theirs. Amanda's heart raced. She hadn't told anyone about her theories yet, worried about risking her reputation. But the evidence was becoming harder to ignore. Something or someone was up there, watching. Jake, she called out, bring me the quantum entanglement results from last week's experiments. I want to cross-reference something. On the observation vessel, Zextal received another alarming report. The humans had begun testing quantum entanglement technology in ways no other species had conceived. While other civilizations had taken the straightforward approach of trying to brute force their way through space-time, humans were looking for shortcuts, exploring the fabric of reality itself. They're going to discover us, Varketh stated the obvious. And they're doing it centuries before any other species has achieved such capability. Perhaps, Zextal mused, that's precisely why the Council ordered us to watch them so closely. Their minds work differently. They make connections that should be impossible at their stage of development. Back on Earth, Amanda stared at her results in disbelief. The quantum signatures she detected matched perfectly with the astronomical anomalies. Whatever was causing the disturbances wasn't natural, it was technological. Jake, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, I need you to help me set up a new experiment. We're going to try something that might sound crazy. As she explained her idea, involving using quantum entanglement to probe the mysterious signatures, Zextal's surveillance team picked up every word. The administrator's expression shifted to one of alarm. They're going to detect our presence within hours, not days, he reported to the Galactic Council. And in doing so, they may accidentally discover principles of quantum mechanics that took other species millennia to understand. The Council's response was immediate. Maintain observation. Do not intervene. Document everything. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, Amanda Russell prepared an experiment that would change humanity's place in the cosmos forever. Above her, cloaked ships struggled to maintain their invisibility, and the galaxy held its breath. She had no way of knowing that by morning, humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. and their ascension would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Amanda Russell stood before a half-circle of skeptical military officials and fellow scientists. The quantum entanglement chamber behind her hummed with barely contained energy, casting an ethereal blue glow across the observation room. "What you're proposing breaks several laws of physics," General Matthews stated, his weathered face betraying no emotion. "You're suggesting we can fold space like a piece of paper." Amanda pulled up a holographic display, showing the results from last week's accident. "With all due respect, General, we've already done it. Accidentally, yes, but the data doesn't lie. The accident had occurred during a routine quantum entanglement test. A power surge had caused their particle accelerator to synchronize with their entanglement chamber in a way that should have been catastrophic. Instead, for a fraction of a second, they had measured something impossible: a microscopic tunnel through space-time itself." Jake Martinez, now sporting a bandaged hand from the incident, stepped forward with additional data. "The energy readings match nothing in our current physics models, but the effect was stable for exactly 3.7 seconds. From their hidden observation post, Zextal and his team watched the proceedings with increasing alarm. "They're reverse engineering fundamental universal principles through trial and error," he reported to the Council. "It's unprecedented. Most species spend generations developing the theoretical framework before attempting practical applications." The Council's response was immediate: "Continue observation. Intervention protocols remain in standby." Back in the facility, Amanda activated the main display, showing a real-time feed from their quantum sensors. "The accident showed us something crucial. Our understanding of space-time is incomplete. We're not just moving through space, we're interacting with it in ways we never imagined possible." She brought up another diagram, this one showing their modified containment chamber. "We've redesigned the system to replicate those exact conditions, but with controlled parameters. If we succeed, we're not just talking about faster-than-light travel. We're talking about rewriting our understanding of the universe itself." General Matthews leaned forward, his interest finally piqued. "And the power requirements." "That's the beautiful part," Jake chimed in, his excitement evident. "The accident proved we don't need massive amounts of energy. We just need precise timing and quantum synchronization. It's more like picking a lock than breaking down a door." In orbit, Varketh's instruments began registering alarming readings. "Administrator, their power signatures are changing. They're about to attempt another fold." Zextal moved to the primary observation screen, all four eyes fixed on the facility deep beneath the mountains. "They're going to succeed," he stated, not as a prediction, but as a fact. "And when they do, our cloaking fields won't be able to compensate." Amanda stood before the control panel, her hand steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. "Beginning quantum synchronization sequence," she announced. The chamber's hum deepened, resonating through the mountain itself. "First barrier alignment achieved," Jake reported, monitoring the quantum field indicators. "No anomalies detected." The air itself seemed to thicken as the experiment progressed. In orbit, the observation fleet's instruments began registering increasingly erratic readings. "Secondary synchronization complete," Amanda called out. "Initiating final sequence." The chamber's glow intensified, but not from any conventional source of light. It was as if reality itself was bending, creating visual distortions that shouldn't be possible. "Energy signatures are stable," Jake confirmed. "Beginning spatial fold in 3, 2, 1. The universe held its breath. Then everything happened at once. The chamber erupted in a silent explosion of quantum energy. Space itself seemed to ripple like water. And high above Earth, 3 massive ships suddenly became visible as their cloaking fields collapsed completely. Amanda stared at her readings in disbelief. They had done it, created a stable wormhole the size of a penny. But more importantly, their sensors were now picking up something else. Something massive, something in orbit. "Dr. Russell," General Matthews said quietly, looking at the suddenly active radar displays. "I believe we may have just caught someone's attention." In orbit, Zextal sent an urgent message to the Council. The humans have achieved quantum-fold technology. But more importantly, they've seen us. First contact protocols are now inevitable. The age of humanity's solitude was about to end, not with careful planning, but with an accident that proved humans' greatest strength: their ability to stumble upon the impossible and make it work anyway. Captain Jackson Cooper was having the strangest morning briefing of his career. The newly commissioned Earth Defense Fleet vessel, Pathfinder, hung in low Earth orbit, its crew transfixed by the sight before them. 3 massive ships, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, hovering silently above Earth. "Let me get this straight," he said, running a hand through his short dark hair. "They'd been watching us for how long?" "Based on Dr. Russell's data, at least several decades," his science officer, Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez, replied. "Their cloaking technology failed when we activated the quantum fold experiment." The bridge crew watched as more ships appeared on their sensors, smaller vessels moving into position around the 3 massive observers. The entire planet held its breath, waiting for whatever came next. In his command chamber, High Administrator Zextal was frantically trying to maintain order. The Galactic Council's carefully planned first contact protocols were dissolving into chaos as the young Viridian science vessel Starbound broke formation, its captain practically vibrating with excitement. "You can't do this," Zextal broadcast. "The humans must be approached according to established procedures. They're not ready for." "Greetings, Earth vessels." The Viridian transmission cut across all frequencies, their translator systems already adapted to Earth's primary languages. "We've been so excited to meet you. Your quantum fold experiment was brilliant. Completely unorthodox, but brilliant." Cooper exchanged glances with his communications officer. "Are they actually that enthusiastic, or is something wrong with the translation?" "Both translations match, sir," the officer replied. "They really are that excited." The Viridian ship, sleek and almost organic in design, was already moving closer to the Pathfinder, ignoring the Council vessel's attempts to maintain order. Its captain, a being named Curaval, whose species resembled a cross between a deer and a praying mantis, appeared on their main view screen. "Captain Cooper, your species' approach to quantum mechanics is fascinating. The way you simply tried things without centuries of theoretical framework first. Incredible." Cooper, drawing on years of diplomatic training that had never contemplated this scenario, managed to smile. "Thank you, Captain Curaval. We're equally fascinated by your presence. Though I admit, we had hoped our first contact might be a bit more planned." In the Rocky Mountain facility, Dr. Amanda Russell watched the transmissions with a mixture of awe and professional curiosity. The quantum readings from the alien vessels were providing more data about space-time manipulation than she gathered in her entire career. "Their ships," she muttered to Jake. "They're using a completely different approach to quantum field manipulation. But ours might actually be more efficient." The Galactic Council vessels finally managed to establish their own communication channel. High Administrator Zextal appeared on screens worldwide, his formal dignity a stark contrast to the Viridians' enthusiasm. "People of Earth," he began, "we apologize for this unorthodox introduction. We had planned a more gradual approach to integrating your species into galactic society." "With all respect, Administrator," Cooper replied, a hint of amusement in his voice, "we humans tend to specialize in unorthodox approaches. Perhaps this is fitting." The Viridian ship had now moved to parallel the Pathfinder, its sensors actively scanning Earth's first deep space vessel. Captain Curaval's excitement hadn't diminished. "Your hull design, it's completely counterintuitive, but the energy efficiency readings are remarkable. How did you think of this configuration? Would you believe it was inspired by sea creatures from our oceans?" Cooper replied, watching as the Viridian captain's translator took a moment to process this concept. Zextal's exasperation was evident even across species barriers. "Captain Cooper, we have procedures for this. Protocols. A proper sequence off." "Administrator," Cooper interjected smoothly, "our history suggests that the most meaningful relationships often start with unexpected meetings. Perhaps we could focus on moving forward rather than lamenting the breach of protocol." From her facility, Amanda smiled as she watched the exchange. Humanity's first official words to alien life weren't profound declarations or diplomatic niceties, but a practical suggestion to make the best of an awkward situation. The galaxy would soon learn that this was humanity in a nutshell, making the impossible work through a combination of accident, adaptation, and unshakable optimism. The Global Space Initiative's main laboratory hummed with activity as Dr. Amanda Russell stood before a holographic display, watching in fascination as her Viridian counterpart, Chief Scientist Zelra, manipulated quantum fields with technology centuries ahead of Earth's development. "You see," Zelra explained, her mantis-like appendages moving with precise grace. "Most species develop quantum manipulation through centuries of theoretical work first. But your approach?" She paused, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was their expression of excitement. "Your method of direct experimentation has revealed possibilities we never conceived." Amanda pulled up the data from their latest joint experiment. "And your foundational understanding helps us avoid the really dangerous mistakes. Look at these resonance patterns. By combining our methods, we've already doubled the efficiency of both systems." In orbit, aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Cooper was having a more complicated discussion with High Administrator Zextal. "You're breaking every established protocol for technological development," Zextal stated, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "Species must progress through proper stages. The Council has maintained this order for millennia." Cooper gestured to the display showing Earth's rapidly advancing quantum network. "With respect, Administrator, maybe it's time for some protocols to evolve." The Viridians clearly agree. The young Viridian race had become humanity's enthusiastic partners in what they called intuitive advancement, the practice of combining theoretical knowledge with experimental leaps that most species considered reckless. Together, they were rewriting the rules of technological development. Back in the laboratory, Jake Martinez rushed in, his tablet displaying new test results. "Dr. Russell, the quantum resonance chamber just produced something impossible. Again." Amanda and Zelra moved to examine the data, their different species' eyes widening in surprisingly similar expressions of shock. The hybrid system they'd created, combining Earth's experimental quantum fold technology with Viridian energy matrices, had generated a stable micro-wormhole that consumed almost no power. "This violates at least 3 Council principles of technological progression," Zelra clicked excitedly. "It's wonderful." The news reached the Council chamber within hours. Zextal faced the assembled representatives of the galaxy's eldest species, trying to explain the inexplicable. "They're not just advancing quickly," he reported. "They're advancing differently. The humans approach problems like no species we've encountered, and the Viridians." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "The Viridians have embraced this chaos with disturbing enthusiasm." In the laboratory, Amanda and her team worked alongside their Viridian counterparts, barriers between species falling away in their shared excitement of discovery. They had already established a quantum communication network that made traditional subspace channels seem primitive. "The Council believes advancement must follow a fixed path," Zelra observed, watching as human and Viridian scientists collaborated on a new series of experiments. "But look at this. Your species took a completely different road and arrived at the same destination, sometimes even finding shortcuts we never imagined." Captain Cooper's voice came through on the quantum comm, tinged with amusement. "Dr. Russell, the Council is demanding a full report on your latest breakthrough. Apparently, you've done something they thought would take another 1,000 years to achieve." "Tell them we're just getting started," Amanda replied, watching as the hybrid quantum system powered up again. Zeldra's team just helped us figure out how to miniaturize the entire process. The Viridian scientists' mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of laughter. And your team showed us how to achieve it with 1/10 the power requirement. The Council won't know whether to be impressed or horrified. Above them, Earth's first quantum satellite network was taking shape, a physical manifestation of the partnership between humans and Viridians. It represented something the galaxy had never seen. Two young species combining their knowledge in ways that challenged millennia of established doctrine. You know, Jake said, looking at the real-time feed of the network's construction, maybe this is why the Council was watching us so closely. They saw something different in how we solve problems. Amanda nodded, remembering the accident that had started it all. We don't just think outside the box, she said. Sometimes we forget there was a box in the first place. In the Council chamber, the debate about humanity's unprecedented advancement continued. But on Earth and aboard the orbiting ships, humans and Viridians were too busy revolutionizing the galaxy to notice. Lieutenant Emma Hayes stared at the holographic display aboard the Pathfinder, her eyes narrowed in concentration. After years of coordinating disaster response in New Orleans, she developed an instinct for pattern recognition in chaos. What she saw in the stellar data reminded her of hurricane formation in the Gulf. "Captain Cooper," she called out, "these energy fluctuations in the galactic core, they're behaving like atmospheric disturbances." Cooper moved to her station, followed by their Viridian science officer, Kirval. "Explain." "Look at the wave patterns." Emma pointed to the swirling energy signatures. "It's like watching a Category 5 hurricane form. But on a stellar scale, the core stars aren't just dying. They're feeding off each other's death throes." In the Council's emergency chamber, representatives from hundreds of species argued over traditional containment methods. None had worked. The chain reaction of stellar collapse was accelerating, threatening thousands of inhabited systems. High Administrator Zextal listened as experts proposed solutions based on millennia of established science, yet something about the human officer's analysis nagged at him. He opened a channel to the Pathfinder. "Lieutenant Hayes," his voice carried an edge of desperate hope, "explain this weather pattern comparison in detail." Emma pulled up historical data from Earth's meteorological archives. In hurricane formation, we see energy transfer patterns that create self-sustaining systems. These stellar collapses are showing the same behavior. Each dying star is feeding energy into its neighbors, creating a cascade effect. Dr. Amanda Russell's voice joined the conversation from Earth. "She's right. We've been looking at this wrong. It's not just a series of individual stellar collapses. It's a system-wide chain reaction." The Council chamber erupted in discussion. A young species, barely space-capable, identifying patterns that the galaxy's oldest civilizations had missed. Impossible. During Hurricane Katrina, Emma continued, her voice steady, "We learned the hard way that you can't fight a storm of that magnitude head-on. You have to understand the system as a whole, find the pressure points where intervention can break the cycle." Kirval's mantis-like form shifted excitedly. "The quantum network. If we adapt the human-Viridian hybrid technology, it could work," Amanda cut in. "We could create a web of quantum links throughout the affected region, use them to redistribute the energy buildup before it reaches critical mass." Cooper watched as his science officer and lieutenant worked with their Earth and Viridian counterparts, rapidly developing a plan that defied conventional galactic wisdom. It was exactly the kind of innovative thinking that had brought humanity to the stars. "The Council will never approve," Zextal warned. "It violates too many established principles of stellar engineering." "With respect, Administrator," Emma replied, pulling up more comparison data, "principles won't matter much if the core collapse continues. We have experience with this kind of systemic cascade failure. Different scale, same patterns." On the main display, a simulation showed the spread of stellar collapse alongside historical hurricane data. The similarities were undeniable. "Your species learned these patterns through disasters?" Zextal asked, his tone mixed with horror and fascination. We learned by surviving them, Emma corrected. Each disaster taught us something new about complex systems. We're not just theorizing. We've lived through this kind of cascading failure before. The Council's experts continued to debate, but the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. The human analysis explained phenomena their traditional models couldn't account for. Lieutenant Hayes, Cooper said quietly, draft a full proposal. Everything you've learned from Earth's natural disasters that might apply here. No matter how unconventional it might seem to the Council. Emma nodded, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Years of disaster response experience, countless storms weathered and lessons learned, all leading to this moment. Earth's history of surviving catastrophe might hold the key to saving the galaxy. In the Council chamber, Zextal made his decision. The human plan may be unprecedented, he announced. But then again, so is this crisis. Sometimes survival requires us to break with tradition. As Emma worked with the combined human Viridian team, she couldn't help but smile. Who would have thought that Earth's hurricanes would prepare humanity to save the stars themselves? The combined Earth-Viridian Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity as Dr. Amanda Russell and Lieutenant Emma Hayes presented their plan to save the galactic core. Holographic displays showed the spreading stellar collapse, now affecting over 200 star systems. The quantum network will function like a pressure relief valve, Amanda explained, manipulating the display to show a web of interconnected points. Each node acts as an energy sink, preventing any single star from reaching critical mass. Like creating fire breaks to control a wildfire, Emma added, noting the confused looks from some alien representatives. We're not trying to stop the process entirely. We're managing it, directing it away from populated systems. High Administrator Zextal's hologram loomed over the command center. The energy requirements would be astronomical. No civilization has ever attempted quantum engineering on this scale. That's because they're thinking about it wrong, Captain Cooper interjected from the Pathfinder's bridge. Show them the miniature demonstration, Doctor. Amanda nodded to Jake, who activated a sealed chamber in the corner of the room. Inside, several quantum-linked microsatellites orbited a central energy source, their fields interweaving in patterns that shouldn't have been possible according to conventional physics. Impossible, one of the Council's senior scientists muttered, all 6 of their eyes fixed on the demonstration. The energy patterns are self-sustaining. We call it quantum resonance, Amanda explained. By linking the nodes in specific configurations, we create a system that actually generates more energy than it consumes. The dying stars themselves will power the containment network. Emma stepped forward, pulling up her atmospheric modeling data. We've seen similar patterns in weather systems. Sometimes the most effective way to handle massive energy displacement isn't to fight it, but to guide it. The Council members watched as the demonstration continued, the quantum network growing more stable as it expanded. It violated dozens of their fundamental assumptions about energy manipulation, yet the results were undeniable. The hard part won't be the technology, Cooper added. It's going to be coordination. We need ships from every major civilization working in perfect sync to deploy the network. Zextal's expression shifted, the equivalent of a raised eyebrow in his species that have been rivals for millennia, working together. Some of them haven't spoken to each other in generations. Then it's time they started, Emma said firmly, because if we fail, none of those ancient rivalries will matter anyway. In orbit, the Pathfinder's crew was already running simulations with their Viridian counterparts. The quantum nodes would need to be placed with microscopic precision, each one timed to activate in perfect sequence. Like conducting an orchestra, Jake mused, watching the simulation. One wrong note, and the whole symphony falls apart. Amanda smiled at the analogy. Exactly. And we've got about 1,000 different instruments all playing at once. The Council chamber erupted in debate once again. The plan was audacious, unprecedented, and completely contrary to established scientific doctrine. It was also, as far as anyone could tell, their only remaining option. Even if we approve this, Zextal warned, you'll face resistance. Many species will balk at sharing their quantum technology secrets. Then remind them of what's at stake, Cooper replied. Their secrets won't mean much if the core collapse reaches their worlds. Emma pulled up a new simulation showing the projected spread of the stellar collapse. We have 48 hours before the cascade becomes irreversible. That's how long we have to convince everyone to work together. The demonstration chamber pulsed with energy as another successful test concluded. The quantum network was ready. The technology worked. Now came the hard part, getting the galaxy's oldest civilizations to trust their future to its youngest members. It's fitting, in a way, Amanda said softly, watching the miniature quantum web shimmer. Humanity's first major contribution to galactic civilization is bringing people together to prevent a disaster. That's what we do best, Emma replied. We've had plenty of practice surviving catastrophes by working together. High Administrator Zextal made his decision. The Council approves the human plan. Stars help us all. As the command center erupted in activity, Amanda caught Emma's eye. They had their chance. Now they just had to rewrite the laws of physics and unite a fractured galaxy. All in the next 48 hours. The galactic core blazed with the light of 1,000 dying stars as the largest fleet in cosmic history assembled. Ships of every size and design, from civilizations that hadn't cooperated in millennia, moved into precise formation under the Pathfinder's guidance. Status report, Captain Cooper called out, watching as the quantum network deployment entered its critical phase. 70% of nodes are in position. Lieutenant Emma Hayes responded, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The Viridian ships are compensating for gravitational distortions in Sector 7. From her position in the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Dr. Amanda Russell monitored the quantum resonance patterns. The network is stable, but we're seeing energy spikes in the outer ring. We need those Centaurian vessels to adjust their position by 0.3 degrees. The operation required unprecedented precision. Each quantum node had to be placed exactly right, or the entire network would collapse. Ships from rival civilizations worked in perfect synchronization, their ancient differences forgotten in the face of extinction. Energy spike in Sector 12. Jake's voice cut through the command center. We've got sabotage attempts on 3 nodes. Cooper's expression hardened. Show me. The display shifted, revealing several ships from the Proxian Empire attempting to disrupt the network's formation. The ancient species had opposed the plan from the start, claiming it violated their sacred technological principles. They'll collapse the entire containment field, Emma warned. Everything we've built will fail. Not on my watch, Cooper responded. He opened a channel to the Proxian vessels. This is Captain Cooper. Your actions threaten not just the network, but every inhabited system in the core. Stand down. The Proxian response came in the form of energy weapons, aimed at nearby quantum nodes. But Cooper had anticipated this. The Pathfinder's quantum shields, based on Amanda's latest breakthrough, activated instantly. Interesting thing about quantum resonance, Amanda's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. It can redirect energy just as easily as contain it. The Proxian weapons fire bounced harmlessly off the shields, their own energy feeding back into the network. All ships, maintain formation, Emma broadcasted. The network is adapting to the energy surge. Use the feedback to strengthen the containment field. In the council chamber, High Administrator Zextal watched in amazement as the humans turned an attack into an advantage. They're not just placing the nodes, he realized. They're conducting them like an orchestra, adapting to each change in real time. The Proxian ships, their weapons rendered useless, withdrew in confusion. The network's deployment continued, each node falling into place with increasing speed as the crews learned to work together. Final sector approaching critical threshold, Jake reported. We need all ships to synchronize their quantum fields in 10 seconds. Emma's voice rang out across the fleet. Remember the hurricane pattern. Let the energy flow through the network. Don't try to force it. 1,000 ships moved as one. Species that had been enemies for longer than humanity had existed now worked in perfect harmony. The quantum network expanded, its energy patterns mimicking the complex systems Emma had studied in Earth's atmosphere. Network completion in 3, 2, 1. Amanda counted down. The galactic core flared brilliantly as the quantum web activated fully. For a moment, it seemed as if the very fabric of space held its breath. Then, slowly, the deadly cascade of stellar collapse began to stabilize. "It's working," Emma breathed, watching as the energy patterns shifted into sustainable flows. "The network is holding." "Correction," Amanda interjected, her voice filled with wonder. "It's not just holding. It's growing stronger. The quantum resonance is creating new stability patterns we never predicted." In the council chamber, Zextal received the preliminary data. The human plan hadn't just stopped the crisis. It had created a new method of stellar engineering that would revolutionize galactic civilization. "Captain Cooper," he transmitted, "it seems we owe humanity a great debt." Cooper smiled, watching as ships from across the galaxy celebrated together. "No debt needed, Administrator. We're all in this together now." As the combined fleet maintained their positions, Emma couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their technology or their theories. It was their ability to bring people together, to find hope in crisis, and to turn disaster into opportunity. 1 month after the core crisis, Earth's Rocky Mountain facility had transformed into the galaxy's premier center for innovative research. Dr. Amanda Russell stood before a diverse audience of species from across the cosmos, presenting the latest developments in quantum engineering. The network didn't just save the core, she explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing the stabilized stellar cluster. "It's taught us something fundamental about the nature of space-time itself." In the front row, High Administrator Zextal sat beside Captain Cooper and Lieutenant Hayes, watching as human and alien scientists collaborated with an enthusiasm that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. "Your species has changed everything," Zextal admitted quietly. "Not just our technology, but our entire approach to progress." "That's not entirely accurate," Cooper replied with a smile. "We just reminded everyone that there's more than one path forward." Speaking of which, the main doors opened as a group of young Proxian scientists entered, their presence causing a stir. The same empire that had tried to sabotage the quantum network now sent their brightest minds to learn from Earth. "The Council's unanimous vote this morning makes it official," Zextal announced, rising to address the gathered crowd. "Earth is to become the seat of the new Galactic Science Exchange, with Dr. Russell as its first director." Amanda blinked in surprise. Jake grinned beside her, having helped keep the news secret. "Seems fitting," he said. "The place where we first discovered quantum folding is now where the galaxy comes to break new ground." Lieutenant Emma Hayes stepped forward, activating a secondary display. "We're already implementing similar cooperative approaches to other challenges. The new Rapid Response Force combines Council resources with human crisis management techniques." The display showed ships from dozens of civilizations training together, using strategies developed from Earth's long history of disaster response. The same qualities that had helped humanity survive countless catastrophes now helped forge a more resilient galactic community. "We're calling it the Phoenix Protocol," Emma explained, "because sometimes the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes of crisis." In orbit, the Pathfinder had been joined by vessels from across the galaxy. The ship's innovative design, once considered unorthodox, now influenced a new generation of spacecraft. Captain Cooper watched from the observation deck as Viridian engineers worked alongside humans, each learning from the other's perspective. "The Council itself is evolving," Zextal continued. "We're implementing what Captain Cooper calls a democratic model, allowing younger species to have a greater voice in shaping our shared future." Amanda moved to a new display, showing the quantum network's unexpected developments. "The core crisis taught us something crucial about progress. It's not just about accumulating knowledge. It's about being willing to look at old problems in new ways. The gathered scientists watched as the display showed energy patterns that defied conventional models. The quantum network had evolved beyond its original purpose, creating new possibilities that no single species had imagined possible. Earth is no longer just another world joining galactic society. Cooper addressed the crowd. We're a bridge between traditional wisdom and new perspectives, a place where innovation and experience come together. Jake brought up the final display, a real-time map of quantum communication links spreading across the galaxy. Distance means something different now, he explained. Ideas flow freely between worlds that once took years to contact each other. And that, Emma added, changes everything about how we face future challenges. The gathering evolved into a celebration as news of Earth's new status spread across the quantum network. In the council chamber, species that had once looked down on primitive humanity now sought partnerships with Earth's institutions. From silent observers to active participants, Zextal mused, watching the celebrations. Your species has come far in a very short time. That's humanity for you, Amanda replied with a smile. We're full of surprises. As the galactic core shimmered with stabilized light, Earth began its new role not just as a member of galactic civilization, but as a catalyst for change. The quantum network that saved the galaxy became a symbol of a new age, one where progress came not from following established paths, but from daring to forge new ones. Humanity had emerged from the shadows of isolation into the starlight of a unified galaxy, and in doing so, they had helped create something unprecedented. A civilization that combined the wisdom of ages with the courage to embrace change.